And we are live, Madam Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'd like to call this Intergovernmental Legislative Relations Committee meeting to order. This is Wednesday, July 2nd, and we have a quorum. CAO Single and Joshua Anderson are excused at this time. Let's see, and we're going to go straight to our first item agenda A, the report from state lobbyists, Mr. Park and Mr. Thompson. Mr. Thompson, you want to go first?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. I've had numerous conversations just in the past week with folks from the executive branch in Santa Fe, folks in the governor's office, as well as numerous legislators. And I think everybody is just sort of waiting to see what the impact of this stuff that's happening federally and what we will have to deal with. They are sort of bolstering for this notion that they may be faced with the challenge of trying to make up, $1.85 billion in funding for stuff, which is very daunting. I'm not going to speculate much more on that. I'm sure Mr. O'Donnell or Mr. Park has a better take on that than I do. But the recommendation that has come to me is that as a partner to the state, are we as a community prepared to sort of roll our sleeves up and sit down with them when the time comes, the legislature and the executive, and find ways that we can work together? In my conversations with Mr. Minicucci and Mr. Anderson, I definitely feel like we are heading in that direction to where we'll be ready to participate in conversations if we have to, but that's all above my pay grade. I will just say that it's happening. I mean, people are getting ready to have these tough conversations. Mr. Park, would you agree?
Yeah, 100%. But at the same time, Madam Chair and members, the work of the legislature continues. I just spent the last 2 days up in Taos with the Courts, Corrections, and Justice Committee, where they were doing a comprehensive deep dive look at the continuing public safety issues and at potential remedies of it. So on the one hand, you have the executive and the legislature very attuned to what may or may not come out of the budget in Washington. But at the same time, they're also working diligently to continue to address some of the issues that they need to consider and work on during the interim so that they can be prepared for the January 2026 session.
Very good, Mr. Thompson. Do you want to say anything more?
No, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody, any comment?
Madam Chair, we just, I'll let Councilor Fieberkorn go, but Mr. Thompson, we did have a meeting regarding next year's capital outlay. I don't know if you want to say anything on that, but after Councilor Fieberkorn.
Councilor Fieberkorn?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question was around this year's capital outlay. We have been trying to get some of that released early. We have some projects that are ready to roll in District 7. I'm sure other districts do as well. We're being told that the money that went through DOT will not be available until December at the earliest, which means to me that'll be next year. The reason for that is that the DOT hasn't been updated in their system. So I'm just wondering if other folks are running into this and if we've had any indication that this is really just DOT funding that we're going to be delayed on, or if it's a larger problem.
Madam Chair and Councilor Fieberkorn, I will say you've hit the nail on the head. I mean, I have definitely heard that there are delays that are coming from the state. Some of it is just expertise and capacity by some of the members of the DOT team and how well versed they are in capital projects. So some of it could just be, experiential error, but there is also some suggestion that some of this is deliberately being done to pump the brakes in case they have to go and scratch up a bunch of money. So I don't know the answer to that, but I've definitely seen manifestations of that across government.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Has anybody heard specifically any other departments that are saying that they won't be able to do it until December at the earliest, or do we really know at this point?
Mr. Madden?
Thank you, Madam Counselor. What we're hearing from local government division is that we expect to have grant agreements from them starting to trickle in about the next 2 weeks. I did speak with Wesley Billingsley, the director of the infrastructure division. They did say that they are forming a new template for their grant agreement that they're trying to get final legal approval on. But once that's done, as I mentioned, local government expects to start rolling out grants within the next few. So the only delay that we have heard is from District 3 at DOT.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I, just for the other counselors' knowledge, I do have a meeting set up with Secretary Cerna for next week to see if we can shake this loose. If there are any additional projects that, you know, others are ready to move on, that we're not getting those funds released from, let me know and I can add that to my agenda for that meeting.
Thank you, Counselor. Okay, Mr. Minicucci?
Counselor, Madam Chair, Council People, one other additional item that DMD's been struggling with, is that in District 3 here, they have become very strict on their rules for spending the previous year's capital outlay funds. I mean, very picky, and that it's really for all the local districts, local communities within District 3, which is mostly central New Mexico. And so that has created some problem in being able to get the money out timely, or back delaying projects, in that they have to continually continually go back and redo paperwork, or do paperwork they don't feel it's necessary for certifications, or or paperwork just gets delayed and they have to restart the project. But I do know DMD, that the county went up and spoke with the MDOT, and I think MDOT probably just didn't respond that they were going to make much change. But that is one of the issues with getting capital outlay out the door right now. The poster child they're using is that District 3, for example, is that the Bernalillo County was going to purchase a car using capital outlay funds that was passing through an MDO 3, and they asked for an environmental certification to purchase a car, which is a lot of paperwork for a very small purchase. So that's kind of issues that they're having to struggle with. Because I think environmental certifications are usually for capital projects. So how exactly environmentally certify a car wasn't quite clear. So, I mean, that's one of the other issues that's occurring that's delaying the process.
Thank you. Any other questions on this topic?
I'll just, Madam Chair, if I could say this really quick. In the past, when these sort of things have happened, where there's a clear disconnect from what's happening within an agency, I think Councilor Feeblecorn, you're talking to the secretary is the next move. And if we strike out there, then I do think it's up for you all to consider whether we escalate to the next level and perhaps have a meeting with the governor's office with very clear examples of, like Mr. Minicucci just raised, and say, is this what you want to happen? Because this is what's happening, and make sure that they're all in alignment with what is happening.
May I ask, I know that Paul Brasher, who is the District 3 engineer, he recently had a stroke, and so he's out. So they're like shorthanded. And prior to that, we were without a District 3 engineer for a long time. Does that have anything to do with getting these projects through and the money through?
I believe so, Madam Chair. Yes, I believe that gets at that experiential part where these folks are not accustomed to seeing certain types of projects that would normally just flow right through. So some of it is getting them educated and empowered to do that work. And perhaps Councilor Feeblecorn's conversation with Secretary Cerna will be a step along those lines.
Okay. About a month ago, I had a meeting with the Cabinet Secretary for Transportation, and the DCAO and the CAO joined me because I have a lot of state land in my district. So I had some concerns that we went through. and it was a good meeting. And he said he would help me with some of the issues that I have going on. And just Monday morning, I met bright and early with one of the engineers to go, and we drove the areas of my concern. And so so we have some things going on, and I don't know if that is attached in any way. Will it be attached to the, what's coming out from the state that's appropriated for these projects? But they're working out some figures, but I've asked for some financial help in some areas. And so I hope that it doesn't get stuck like these other projects, but we can hope and pray and keep connected, and hopefully we can get through so we can get our projects done. Mr. Minicucci?
Madam Chair, just this, when you get done with that subject, we'd like to bring up some meeting we had regarding next year's capital outlay, but that's all.
Okay, thank you. All right, Mr. Thompson, anything else that you want to add?
No, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Park.
No, thank you, ma'am.
Okay,
Happy to answer any questions.
Any other questions, folks? Mr. Anderson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just because we were talking a little bit about DOT, and maybe this is a question for Mr. Layton. Are we waiting on any grant agreements from the previous capital outlay year, or we at least have all? So we're just working this upcoming.
Anyone?
Madam Chair, Mr. Anderson, to my understanding, we are not waiting on any grant agreements from the 24 legislative session at this time.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. That's good news. Okay, let's go on to our item agenda B. Mr. O'Donnell, you have a big report for us.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Yes, I have a report, two parts. First is appropriations and then reconciliation. So in appropriations, as you know, when we reported the last time, we gave a list of the city's requests that had been submitted to appropriations committees for consideration in the FY26 bill. So in the past several weeks, the House has begun to mark up its FY26 bills, and they've basically done 5 to start with: agriculture, defense, military, construction, and veterans affairs, the legislative branch, and homeland security. The four next bills to be considered are going to be ones that our earmarks probably would find themselves in as a result of subcommittee action, and that's commerce, justice, and science. It is energy and water, which is the Corps of Engineers and Department of Energy, and transportation and HUD. And the final one that should be done by towards the end of the month is labor, health, and human services. And the House has got a schedule right now to finish all of the subcommittee bills in full committee by July 24th. That would mean that the House would have their work done on the FY26 bills before the August recess. The Senate does not have a schedule yet. And as I think I might have shared last week in some of the meetings that I had with city officials, the Senate may never go to a markup because there was never an agreement on a top line number for the chairs of both the House and the Senate subcommittees to send to their subcommittees to work off of. So in the Senate side, they may just wind up doing what they did a year ago, and that is they deem a certain amount of money available. They produce a report on the bill, and then they go to conference with the House. So that's where we will probably find ourselves at the beginning of September on appropriations. On reconciliation, I just was looking at the House floor right now, live, they have an open vote at the moment, which means that they are considering the House vote on the reconciliation package that came back from the Senate yesterday afternoon. There's a bit of a hiccup in the House because of weather on the East Coast. There are some, and I don't know how many, legislators in the House that are driving back to Washington, either from South Carolina or New Hampshire, upstate New York. So this may not get finished today. It may be tomorrow. They are trying to finish this bill. There's nothing special about the 4th of July end of this process, except that I think Speaker Johnson said several months ago they hope to have it done by the July 4th break. The important provisions, and I've sent Mr. Menachuzzi, Mr. Anderson, and Mr. David Parkinson reports over the last 24 hours. There was one that I did earlier this afternoon that I don't know it got distributed. It has a few additional pieces of information, but essentially, right now, the major challenge to this reconciliation bill being finished is on the part of the very conservative members in the House, the Tea Party members, who object to the cost of the bill as it came back from the Senate. The estimates from the Congressional Budget Office are that the way the Senate prepared the bill or voted on the bill, it would add about 110 million to the 10-year cost of this legislation, which means that's added to the deficit. So the president, as I understand it, has been working along with the House leader this afternoon to try and convince the 12 or so very conservative members that they should vote for this package. And what is interesting about this, and I knew I had heard this, but I sort of saw it yesterday in the actual figures. This bill passed in the Senate by 51 to 50 vote. And when it was passed back on May 28th, I think it was May 28th, maybe it was 22nd in the House, the vote was 215 to 214. So you can see that it's very close. So the provisions that are in this bill that are causing some concern on the part of House members and some moderate House members are the Medicaid provisions, the working requirements, the recertification, and then there's a thing which I think Mr. Thompson was kind of alluding to called the provider taxes. And in the provider taxes, this is where states can impose taxes on healthcare providers such as hospitals and nursing homes. And it's used to help fund the state's share of the Medicare costs to the program. On Monday, I met with the governor's office here, the New Mexico governor's office here, and the director, Courtney Kirster. And Courtney told me that on this provider tax issue, and I think this is congruent with what Mr. Thompson said, she said that's about a $2 billion price tag for the state of New Mexico. And that isn't just one price tag. As she explained it to me, that is year after year. It's 2 million, 2 million, or 2 billion, I'm sorry. So that is really the big concern about many states, because the cost is going to come to the states. And as was also mentioned earlier, this is where you will probably in local government be speaking with your state legislators and the governor's office about how these costs will be addressed at the local level and at the state level. They maintain a senior tax deduction in the House for $4,000, and in the Senate it's $6,000. the state and local government tax deduction, and this is another major item that I mentioned before. In the Senate, they held it at $10,000, and in this House, it's up to $40,000 a year. And that really reflects this thing of the tension between the moderate Republicans that come from districts that former President Biden carried, and there's a lot of concern about those seats. There is some protection of the green energy tax credits. The House scales them back dramatically. The Senate keeps more of those energy tax credits intact, although there's some rollback. And I can provide more detailed information on this after these bills, after this bill gets finished. Right now, it's always a moving target with many of these components. The work requirements are one of the items that Ms. Kirster pointed out are a concern, because the Senate has a little more flexibility. The House, not so much, in terms of requiring all the able-bodied adults between 19 and 64 years of age to work. There are some exceptions for pregnancy, mental health, frailty, caregiving. The Senate, as I said, is a little more flexible than the House in that regard. And then the other item that's in both bills, or both the House and the Senate agree, is that there's going to be a recertification frequency for qualifying for Medicaid that will be twice a year. And that, I think, on the part of state governments, is one of their concerns, is the paperwork and just how well versed some people are about knowing that they have to recertify for Medicaid assistance. Madam Chair, that's kind of a summary of appropriations and reconciliation where we stand right now, and I'm glad to try and answer questions the group might have.
Thank you, Mr. O'Donnell. Does anyone have any questions? I don't have any questions, but I do want to thank you for this summary. It's very, very helpful. It helps. I mean, it's really nice to get a visual on what we're hearing and even reading about, but we know that coming from you, we can trust what we're hearing and seeing. So I appreciate that.
Madam Chair, I would say that as soon as this bill is final, I'll get another report to you about what actually is in that final package.
That's awesome. Thank you very much. I will look forward to that. Anybody have anything to say? Any other questions? Okay, well, let's see. Is there any other business? That would be item agenda C. Okay, well, then we can, this meeting can be over. We appreciate all of your time, and until we see the next meeting, I guess that'll be in another month, I believe, next month, unless we need to call one before then. Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.